Welcome to Mortgages and More, your go-to podcast for the latest insights in the mortgage industry. Join us as we dive into expert advice, unveil actionable tips, and learn how to empower the next generation of homebuyers. Get ready to elevate your knowledge and make those property dreams a reality. Let's get started.
What do you think, Liz? If that doesn't get you pumped up, I don't know what it's going to take.
Let's go.
Let's go. So welcome back, everybody, to Mortgages and More. I'm Brian Vieaux. We do not have Kyle Draper with us today. We're dividing and conquering today, but we do have Liz Short with us. Liz is the founder of Short Solutions. And Liz, you and I got to talk a little bit before we hit record on what you're doing with your consultancy. You're focused a lot on change management in the technology space, helping companies think about technology and if they're changing, how to manage that change. And so our loan officers that are tuning in might be thinking, wait a minute, did I go to the wrong show? What's going on here? But I think this is going to be a really cool conversation for loan officers because there is some movement today in the loan officer space. And I'm not certain how much loan officers think about their own situation and the change management that they need to go through when they're moving from point A to point B. So we're going to riff on that a little bit and see if we can't go a layer deeper here. But welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much, Brian. I'm so excited to be here today and have this conversation about change management with you. Not a topic people talk about a lot, but I think something that's really important.
Well, this industry has gone through a lot of change. So if we don't have a strategy to manage change, then we got a problem. So it's definitely top of mind for a lot of people today.
Absolutely.
You and I this is kind of cool because this is literally the first time we're having a in real life conversation on video.
It is almost in person.
Yeah, very close. And we've chatted a lot through LinkedIn and other methods, but it's cool to get to see you on video. And let's talk a little bit about when you're helping a company with a technology change. You kind of hit on this again before we hit record. There's more than just the technology. There's the people part of it, and so maybe let's start there with the impact of people and how you help companies manage that part of the change.
Absolutely. I think in our industry specifically, mortgage technology historically has been very prescriptive, right? The technology does this, so you have to change your process and train your people to do it this way. Today's mortgage technology is completely different. It's configurable, it's customizable. Technology companies are coming to you and saying, how do you want this technology to match the way you do business? And I think as an industry, we have a very hard time answering that question today because historically we've never been asked that question. And so change management for me really is about how we help organizations understand what process they want to have and then adapt their technology to help their people do that process.
I love that. So if we take that as our opener and take it down to a level where, an individual is making a decision, again, to go from point A to point B, I think the same methodology should be taking place, in that loan officer's mind in terms of what it is I am looking for in terms of process and technology, and then, kind of measure that. So how would you kind of counsel a loan officer who's going through this own change management process?
I love that question. So I think a lot of times when I talk to loan officers, they want a specific piece of technology, right? Like, I need this LOS. I need this CRMs especially, right? I need this exact tech stack because it's what I've had before and it helped me be successful. And there's definitely something to that. But I think the more important thing to focus on, number one in technology, is what features do you need, right? Not necessarily the technology, but what features are you using in your business today that you have to be able to transfer over and hit the ground running? I think the second most important part is you can have great technology, but if you don't have the people there to help you train, learn, and transfer your business over, it doesn't really matter long term as well too. And so understanding really that extra layer of who's going to be there and what is that process going to look like to help you adapt, because changing jobs is hard no matter what, right? And then when you add the extra layers that a loan officer has to think about in shifting a whole sales pipeline to a new organization, I just think there's different layers there that you have to consider as well too.
One thing that came to mind as you were describing that is that, and I hear this a lot, and you said it's, I want this brand X technology.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, I think before you can say I want brand X, you have to do your own little self-assessment and say, okay, if I'm using brand X in my current company, what exactly am I using?
Yeah.
Because you may be using, 20% or 30% of brand X. And so when you realistically assess the features you're using today and that they're working for you, maybe you don't need brand X, because maybe brand X is the Cadillac of CRMs as an example, and you can get away with a Kia today. No knock on Kias, by the way.
Absolutely. Or the flip side is true, right? Just because a company says that they're using this technology that you want, make sure they've implemented all the features that you're using as well too, right? Especially the bigger the piece of technology, the more configurable and customizable it is. It might not look exactly like what you walked away from in your previous organization. So I think that's a really key point. What exactly do you need it to do? And then what do they have that might be the same or comparable?
So when you're working with a company and the people part of it, I always hear, and I come at this from a technology vendor perspective, and so we certainly are challenging it as well. It's seemingly the biggest challenge that vendors and their clients, the companies, have is, especially with products or tech that's not in the manufacturing of the loan. It's adoption, right? So how do you kind of counsel and advise your clients around adoption? What are some best practices around adoption that a individual could take away from what benefits a big company?
Absolutely. I'll use a CRM as an example because I think that's a tool that a lot of companies want sales folks to use, and a lot of sales folks maybe cringe a little bit at, right? So I think the first thing that you have to do, either as a company or organization, is why are you using the tool? What is the goal? What's the ROI? And be honest about it, right? Like, what's the actual return on the time that you're spending in there? And I'm going to be honest with you, sometimes the tool doesn't have the ROI. And as an organization, you have to admit that and walk away and focus on the things that are providing you the value. But I think as a salesperson, if you can sit down and say, okay, my company has this tool, my company has this technology, right? I might not need to use every single part of it, but where can I look and understand where the value could be for me and why I might want to invest in using this? And especially as an individual user, I always tell people, get in there and try it out. The reason we normally shy away from something is because it's different or it takes too much time, right? It's uncomfortable. Oh my gosh, it's keeping me from doing something else. I usually find if people can get in and commit to something for a week to start with, 2 weeks, right? I'm not saying you have to make this 90-day commitment. You're going to find pretty quickly some quick wins and some ways that it can work for you, or that it might not be a good fit for you. And I think that's important to know right away as well, too. Not every feature in every piece of technology is for everyone.
Right. So for loan officers that are, contemplating a move, and there's two sets of loan officers that are making moves right now. There's, set A, sadly, that are making moves because they have to, because maybe their employer is really limited or pulled back or even exited the business altogether.
For sure. So, it's a reality.
In some cases, you don't have a lot of time to evaluate, but I think most people that are contemplating moves aren't necessarily forced by some, impending end of their current company. And so I think how should a loan officer be doing their diligence when they're evaluating, 2 or 3, 4 places where they may go to make it their they're home for life, so to speak. What are those questions they could be asking the hiring manager, the recruiters, about the tech stack and the training and the support?
I love it. The number one thing I always tell people is shy away from companies that tell you yes to everything, right? It is very hard from a technology standpoint to support a tech stack that's any CRM, any piece of technology that somebody wants to bring in. And so it's really nice to hear yes, 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 when we're talking to all these sales managers, but you have to understand the reality on the other side of that. And so I always tell people to talk to other top producers in the company or people that they have known that work there recently and might not anymore. I think those people give you a good different perspective as well
Sure.
too. But really asking questions and understanding about how new features and functionality are rolled out and about what were the last big things that were rolled out at the company, right? And when were those rolled out? Because what we're looking for is consistent change. I think any organization right now has to be undergoing a pretty consistent change methodology to get where we all need to be in this industry on the other side of the cycle. I think the other thing to understand is really, how does that onboarding look for you from a pure learning the technology standpoint, right? You know how to sell, but how are you getting onboarded? What does day one look like? What does week one look like? How are you getting your data into the system, et cetera, et cetera? I think those are really key questions to understand early on, to make sure that you're just not really being kind of sold a promise that they don't really know how to deliver on in the back end.
I love the don't just expect and accept yes for everything, because that is a red flag, right?
Absolutely. And you want to hear it. You want the technology that you want, but you also need the support of the organization long term, to be able to keep improving and connecting those technologies to other things that you need as well too.
So that's a good point. We should just peel this a little bit deeper. So let's stay on the CRM.
Sure.
I'm talking to brand Z, and
Mhm.
I'm using my favorite CRM.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
not going to say brands. I'm not going to say
No,
brands.
no, 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 no. And there's too many. There's too
There,
many out there.
too many.
Yeah.
But I'm using my favorite, and I really want to use it at your
Mhm.
place. And
Mhm.
yeah, no problem. We support these 6 CRM. So in on one side, it's like, oh, I love the flexibility. You're really looking out for your loan officers. But
Sure.
guess what? If they're supporting 6 CRMs, there's no way they have the support to
Yep.
support 6 CRMs. And
Correct.
especially today, I mean, we've gone through this massive contraction in the industry, and a lot of support has been cut back in every company. And so I think in my mind, I'd rather be at a shop that maybe is not they don't have the first choice of CRM, but they're all in on the tool, on the technology, and they have the support, the training, and they have it wired up to all the, to the right and to the left of the tech stack. So I think that's a great point, Liz. Is yes to everything may not be the right answer.
I think that it's more important to find a company that has a long-term vision of how their mortgage process will look from a technology and people perspective than for them to come in and give you the tech stack that you're used to and feel safe with. Because the companies that are doing that aren't going to get to where they need to be, and you need them to be, to survive into the next generation of mortgage origination. So I think you got to be flexible, right? There's no perfect tech stack. There's no perfect company. And so again, it gets back to, what do you need? What exactly do you need? Write them in priority order and then go into those conversations with that list, so you make sure that you're actually asking the right questions as well too.
Yeah, it's so good. Liz, this has been awesome. This is a different talk track than we've had on this podcast,
Yeah, yeah,
but it's one that I think was really important. There, like I said, we've talked about, there's a lot of movement out there. There's probably going to be
yeah,
a little bit more, as
absolutely.
this market continues to kind of find its legs. And so I think the lesson, the message here on today's episode is really to do your diligence
Yeah,
as a loan officer.
yeah.
And I think we said it without saying it, but that diligence starts by diligencing yourself. What are you doing? What's your business model?
Yep.
And then what are the tools that you absolutely need versus you'd love to have? And then kind of give yourself some flexibility, because it's gonna open up the opportunities to more than maybe just one or two companies that are out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Don't get tied down with your tech stack. Be a little bit flexible, and that there are a lot of opportunities out there.
I love that. Liz, thank you so much for coming on. It's been really enlightening for me. It's helped me think about how we need to be thinking about our own technology at FinLocker when we're talking with loan officers. So thanks again for joining. Everybody, thanks for watching us here. We come back next week. We'll have another episode of Mortgages and More.
Thanks, Brian. Bye.